Welcome, everyone, to the Thursday edition of Fair Territory, the live edition. I'm Ken Rosenthal here with Alanna Rizzo. And Alanna, we have the usual potpourri to get to.
We do. Great to be with you as always, Ken. I tell you what, the Houston Astros, Ken, this is a team decimated by starting pitching injury, but they are lurking. What more can you tell us as we get going in the lead?
It's rather amazing, Alanna. We say this every year with the Astros, or seemingly the last few years. This is going to be the year they're not that good. Well, here we go again. They have lost 3 starting pitchers since the season started. I'm talking about Blanco, Wisniewski, and Arrighetti. They've had a number of other starting pitchers down, and yet, even without Yordan Alvarez, who has been out since May 2nd, their best hitter, arguably, here they are, a half game out of first place in the American League West, and it's amazing to me. They've had a better record without Alvarez than they had with him. They're 14-10 without him. They were 16-15 with him. They have all these pitching injuries, real questions there, and probably a deadline need for them. But at the same time, they are doing their Astros thing. And let's look at their pitching, Alanna, just to show you how dire this circumstance is for them, and yet they keep going anyway. Here are the current starters for the Astros. It's Hunter Brown, Framber Valdez, and Lance McCullers Jr., who has been resurgent. Good for him. Colton Gordon and Ryan Gusto, that's dipping into their depth a little bit because of the list on the right. Spencer Arrighetti, Blanco, and Wisniewski, we mentioned. J.P. France, Luis Garcia, Christian Javier, all possibly will return along with Arrighetti at some point, but I don't know how you can count on those guys. A lot of them have been out for quite some time. So the Astros likely will need a starter. We've seen Dana Brown, their GM, be aggressive in the past. It's just impressive to me that they do this year after year. They've got a lineup now without Alvarez that is essentially all right-handed. It is not what you want. And again, here they are. Let's look at the AL West standings, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about with regard to their position in the division. Seattle Mariners still leading the division, but lost 3 of 4 to the Astros this week. That's why the Astros are now a half game back. The Rangers have been awful. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Their pitching has been great. Their offense has been brutal. They're 4.5 out. The Angels playing better, 25-30, 5.5 out, and then the A's have just collapsed. So the Astros, in a division that we expected to be rather strong, maybe it isn't as strong as we thought, Alanna, and maybe that will bode well for Houston going down the stretch.
This is amazing to think that the Astros, this is always a team like, well, maybe we should bury them. Maybe next year, maybe this is a rebuilding season. It never seems to be that way. I mean, again, Ken, this is without Alvarez in their lineup. This was the departure of Alex Bregman. This is also with the departure of Kyle Tucker. It is unfortunate, though, that their arms are so hurt. Chandler Rome, your colleague and co-host of Crush City Territory on the Foul Territory platform, brought out in his article about this that if you pair Blanco's workout, Ken, with 145 innings, and Spencer Arrighetti's, if you compare Blanco's workload in 2004, rather, and then Spencer Arrighetti's innings last year, this is a Houston Astros rotation, Ken, now that is without 312 and the third innings from the 2024 rotation. So their depth certainly, and Blanco is one of the most recent no-hitter pitchers that has done that recently. So they have to go after a starter, as you mentioned. Do they go for more than one?
I don't know that they'll need to do that, but one for sure. And there will be some starters available. As we're starting to see, Alanna, this race sort out in each division, you see teams that are disappointing, teams that might make pitchers available that otherwise you wouldn't have thought available. I'm actually going to have more on this in my notes column tomorrow because things are starting to get interesting on the trade front.
Yeah, things are starting to spread themselves out. One guy we know that is not available for a pickup is Paul Skenes, Ken. We've talked about it so many times, how special Paul Skenes is, but there's another reason why we should think that he's special. What is it?
Just the way he is performing through a lot of recent trade talk and how he shuts out the noise and just is going forward all the time. This guy, in his first full season, now leads the majors in innings pitched, 75 1/3. That's really impressive. And it speaks to his work ethic, his approach, everything about him. I walked into the ballpark in Arizona a couple of days ago, and there he was working out by himself. He was doing his thing, and he's just a really impressive person. And I want to show you something that Torey Lovullo said, the Arizona Diamondbacks manager, to reporters this week about Skenes and about the trade talk. And it says from Bob Nightingale, Diamondbacks manager Torey Lovullo raved about the way Pirates ace Paul Skenes has deflected all trade talk speculation, and Skenes did the same again today after the game when asked about a future contract extension. He said, "I'm not in a rush, and I don't think they are either." Now, you might say, well, what else is he going to say? And you might ask, well, what else is he going to say with regard to trade speculation? He can't get involved in that. That's all true. But there have been people within the game asking, is there going to come a point with Paul Skenes where he's frustrated enough to say, you know what, I'd like to pitch for a better team if you're not going to surround me with talent? And we've seen no signs of that. All we see from this guy is every fifth day or sixth day, whatever the case might be, him going out there and doing what he does best, which is just pitching and pitching at an extremely high level. 1.91 ERA in May, 2.15 for the season. Again, leads the majors in innings pitched. He is everything you would want out of an ace. In fact, his manager, Don Kelly, said this week, he reminds Kelly, who used to play for the Detroit Tigers, of two guys that he used to play with, Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer.
That is high praise, good company to be in. Both of those guys likely headed to Cooperstown. Paul Skenes, a 2.03 ERA in 35 starts. You mentioned 2.15 ERA this season. Ken, he's a tremendous player. One guy that we don't talk enough about, and maybe we should be, is Noah Cameron. Is he good enough, in your opinion, to enter that AL Rookie of the Year conversation?
I think we need to know more and see more from him. And Alanna, actually, I think we need to introduce him. Noah Cameron is a rookie pitcher for the Kansas City Royals, grew up about an hour outside of Kansas City. And the Royals, their pitching, starting pitching in particular, is a strength. But right now, they've got Lugo and Reagans on the injured list. And Noah Cameron has come up and made 4 starts for them. And he has been absolutely brilliant. 6 1/3 innings each time. You see the note there. Second pitcher since 1893 with 6 1/3 innings and 1 run or less in his first 4 major league starts. That's pretty good. And the Royals have had some good things happening with their rotation, Chris Bubic most of all. But Noah Cameron is a guy that is going to be really intriguing for them because you don't expect to go through a season with 5 starters. And we've seen that with the Royals. They're not going through the season with 5 starters. They've needed help from Cameron. And here's a guy that only reinforces their greatest strength. They need to find offense, whether it's Jack Caglianone, who is tearing it up in the minors, or someone else in a trade. They're 27th in the majors in runs per game. So while it's great to see Cameron and what he's doing, and great to see him enter the Rookie of the Year picture, perhaps, they need to score more runs to be competitive in what has been a pretty good division so far.
Ken, I got to wonder when you and I were having this conversation with Jeremy, our producer, about the 6 1/3 innings. It's like, how many other pitchers are even in the conversation for 6 1/3 innings? I realize it's only been 4 starts, but it's interesting to note that Paul Skenes is the only guy close to having that many innings thrown. He's averaging 6 1/3. Now that's over 12 starts, so that's a lot better. But again, it's nice to have Noah Cameron in this conversation that when given the opportunity, he's getting the job done.
He certainly is. And that comparison is actually pretty good in my estimation, Alanna, because yes, it's only 4 starts, but it's his first 4 starts. Nobody goes deep in games anymore. And this guy's going into the 7th inning. And that's what Skenes is doing on a regular basis. But to see a young pitcher come up and do that, to see him trained to do that by his organization, which is a rarity in itself, it's impressive overall.
Is it too soon to stack him against Jacob Wilson or Jason Dominguez? Are we being too premature here?
Probably you need to see more than 4 starts. And I don't know how long he'll be in the majors, how they're going to use him, whether he'll be up and down. But right now, Jacob Wilson of the A's would be the front runner for Rookie of the Year. He's had a tremendous start to his season. Jason Dominguez has been very good himself, especially in May. But Cameron could come on. You never know. And certainly the Rookie of the Year races are often not decided until later because guys don't come up until this time of year in many cases. Paul Skenes was a good example. So let's not rule out Noah Cameron. He is certainly entering the picture.
Yeah, there's always the question too, can a pitcher be Rookie of the Year over a position player? Obviously, Paul Skenes did it most recently. Much more to come here on Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal. Get those questions in, load them up for Grillin Ken. We'll be right back after a word from our friends at Foul Territory.
FT fam, you might have a boring, old, crusty, unpretty razor, and it might be expensive. So, AJ, should they consider another option?
Look how cool this is. Look at the color scheme. Look at it. Little sheath to hide the blades when you travel. Works great. I've been using this for a couple weeks now with Harry's. Clean, no bumps, no cuts. Works great. And you know the best part? It's a great price, especially if you use the foul territory code, Scott.
That's right, harrys.com/foul. Guess what? You can also get yourself a no-risk trial. So if you don't like your shave, no worries. It's on Harry's. They're not worried about it. Get the edge on your shave with Harry's. Normally, the trial set is $10, but right now, you can get it for just $6 at harrys.com/foul. Use the exclusive link, harrys.com/foul, for a $6 trial set.
All right, now welcome to Grillin Ken. Don't forget to load up those questions in the chat. It's not often that you get to ask Ken Rosenthal a question. So we start with this. The Angels and the Yankees just completed a series, Ken, and there was a lot of intentionally walking going on of Aaron Judge, which kind of makes sense. He's a pretty good hitter. I don't know if you've heard of him, but in the first and the third inning, they're already intentionally walking number 9. What's your take?
I actually liked it. And I also liked what resulted from it, which was that cool exchange between Judge and Angels manager Ron Washington, in which Judge kind of looked over and Washington stuck out his tongue laughing. Basically, right now, Aaron Judge is at a nearly 500 clip on base percentage, nearly 400 batting average. And of course, he slugs like crazy. You don't want to deal with him if you don't have to. And people might say that's ridiculous. You're taking the bat out of his hands. But Washington is reacting to game situations as well. And would you rather have that, or would you rather have the Orioles' new manager, Tony Mansolino, pitching to Rafael Devers with a base open? And we saw how that ended for him last weekend. Not to pick on Mansolino, but sometimes it's best to avoid a guy like Judge, and I have no problem with the strategy.
Yeah, first and second inning, rather, not first and third in terms of the intentional walks. But I love it there. And I do love the exchange between Wash, a veteran in this game, obviously, and Aaron Judge. Okay, another question staying in the AL East. This is about the Tampa Bay Rays. This is from Luke. Thanks for participating, Luke. Are the Rays the only team in the American League that can stop the Yankees from going back to the World Series? They are only the AL team since 2020 in the top 6 in winning percentage versus New York. So they play them well.
Luke, you make some good points. And the Rays have come on of late. They've played much better. They have excellent starting pitching and excellent bullpen. Question with them, and it seems like we say this about so many teams. We were just talking about the Royals in this regard. Are they going to hit enough? And they've got Aranda having an all-star type season. Caminero, of course, worlds of potential. They need more out of Brandon Lau and Josh Lowe, and they got some things that have to be addressed. Okay, but I do like them to compete, at least for a wild card. I don't know that they can catch the Yankees in the division, and I don't know that they're better than the Yankees. But are they a potential playoff team with the Orioles collapsing and the Red Sox seemingly unable to get out of their own way? And the Blue Jays kind of having a lot of potential, but not really firing just yet. Yeah, the Rays are going to be right there. They've got Ha-Seong Kim coming back from his injury. He's not played for them just yet. So I like where they are, and I kind of always like them. I just wonder if they're going to hit enough to be as much of a force as they could be to support that pitching.
Yeah, they're always in the conversation, certainly in the AL East. Another team that is the talk of the town, at least around here, Ken, is the Boston Red Sox. I mean, they are on a big-time struggle bus right now. Can they turn it around?
Good question. And the answer is yes. They have the talent to turn it around. And we'll talk more about them later in the show as well. Listen, they've had tough injuries. Bregman and Cassis, the two corner infielders, that's a big deal. That's a lot to lose. But all teams have injuries, and they're trying to figure out who to play where and all of that. They just haven't played particularly well. And they're in the middle of a 5-game losing streak right now against the Orioles and the Brewers, two teams that are not exactly powerhouses. There seems to be kind of a bad vibe about them. Now, if they bring up Roman Anthony, if Meyer keeps doing what he was been doing early on, if Campbell regains what he has seemingly lost after that great first month, they could be a fun, exciting team. Need better starting pitching, need more consistent play overall, but right now it's hard to like the Red Sox.
I had a conversation the other day, Ken, with Pedro Martinez, obviously Red Sox lore, and he said that Christian Campbell is so good, they're trying to make him bad. What is your perspective of them having so many different players out of position? I mean, they obviously like him. They gave him a big deal, but they're having him take ground balls at first base. He may play there this weekend. You also have him in the outfield. What's your take on that situation?
I like that comment from Pedro. And generally, when you talk about prospects, what do you hear from teams about positions? Well, we want to let him settle in. We want to get him settled at that position, and then he can make some versatile moves later. The Red Sox aren't doing that. Marcelo Meyer comes up. He was playing shortstop in the minors, then he played a little bit of second base, and he's a third. Campbell, as you mentioned, Alanna, is going to play first this weekend. They seem to have all of these pieces in the jigsaw puzzle in the wrong spots. And Trevor Story, one of their big contracts, 8th lowest OPS in the majors. So there are all these things going on with them, and none of them really are good. Christian Campbell is a player who, yes, has struggled at second base, so they're thinking, why not play him at first? We don't want Devers in the field. That seems to be the message here. We don't want Rafael Devers wearing a glove. So, okay, that's fine, but you're compromising perhaps some of your young players by putting them in uncomfortable spots, or at least unfamiliar spots.
Yeah, and he made it pretty clear he's not going to put on a glove also, by the way. Let me ask you this, though. I mean, there's been 3 managers that have been fired so far already this season. A lot of fans are, shouting off the rooftops there to get Alex Cora fired. I don't think this is Alex Cora's fault.
It's the first year of a 3-year extension for Cora. He's not getting fired 2 months into a 3-year extension. That's first of all. Is it Cora's fault? I can't say it's Cora's fault. The injuries certainly aren't his fault. The Devers situation, could this have been finessed better? Could somehow the organization have talked him into, I don't know, playing third, playing first, whatever the case might be? I'm not sure I'll put that on Alex Cora either, simply because Devers is not a good defender. So for all this talk about how selfish he is, yeah, okay, I get it. Fair point. But do you really want him in the field? So when a team plays poorly, as the Red Sox have played, as the Rangers are playing right now, as the Diamondbacks are playing, there's always going to be questions. And sometimes those questions go back to the manager, and they're fair. But I don't know that you can put this on Cora. And I do know he's not getting fired when he's got 3 years left, or the bulk of 3 years.
Yeah, a lot going on at Fenway Park this season. One more question for you on Grillin Ken. This one comes from Wrestle Comics. Trade deadline approaching, Ken. Do you expect the market to be more active than years past based on how close these teams are out of the wild card and division races?
I don't know that I will say more active than in years past, but I certainly expect it to be active. And it almost doesn't matter how close the races are. The general managers in general cannot sit still. They're going to do things to try to improve their teams. They shouldn't sit still. They should be trying to do everything possible to enhance their rosters. Now, what makes it interesting when you have so many close races, and granted, in 2 months, they might not be as close, but what makes it interesting is in those kinds of circumstances, you will sometimes see major league for major league trades instead of just major leaguers for prospects, because teams will look to fill each other's needs. They might not want to give up prospects. They might have a surplus in one area, a weakness in another. These are the kinds of things that get especially lively. There's nothing like, to me, a good major leaguer for major leaguer trade as opposed to a major leaguer for 3 guys that you really, for the most part, as an average fan, might not have heard of. So, yes, I expect it to be active, more active than years past. I'm not sure I'd say that.
Ken, as you know, prospect means unproven. You never know what you're going to get. All right. Thanks so much, you guys, for getting those questions in here on Grillin Ken. Dude and Dork of the Week is next, right after this.
If you're a card collector or you'd like to get into card collecting, may I suggest Arena Club and slab packs, which means that you can rip the packs digitally and, of course, get the card that you want. It's also the most trusted name in the game, and I would rather rip packs these days on my phone than sit next to you and have you grabbing one of my physical packs if I was grabbing one.
Yeah, you don't need me grabbing your packs, because last time you grabbed one, it ended up like this card. So let's not have that, and that's why Arena Club is great. They send them to you in these fancy protectors like this Scout Brown card that we have here, and they'll come safe. They're already graded. Or you could do like I do and just leave my cards in the showroom and never actually see them physically.
Yeah.
But they're safe, protected, and if I want to sell them, I can.
Buy, sell, trade. They offer full transparency, showing every card in the slab pack with the likelihood of pulling each one so you know exactly what's available before you buy. Get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/FAL and use code FAL.
BetMGM is giving you the chance to win a prize every day during the baseball season. Step into the batter's box for BetMGM's Swing for the Fences free-to-play game. Visit the BetMGM app to access the game, and you'll score a prize if you hit a single, double, triple, or home run. Strikeout? No problem. Try again tomorrow. Gambling problem or concern? There is help. Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Dude.
All right, everybody, time for Ken and I to give you guys our shout outs over the last week. Ken, the honors are yours. Who is your dude of the week?
Miami Marlins second baseman Ronnie Simon and all of the players who rose to his defense and support after that 3-error situation that he had when he left the field in tears. First of all, what is most important to understand always, and Tim Kirkjian taught me this when I first started covering baseball way back in the late 80s, the game is really hard to play. And Ronnie Simon obviously had a bad night. And what was so cool about this, you see his teammates supporting him there. You see, too, afterward, Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado, a number of the Padres, Luis Ariz was another one, reaching out to him and saying, hey, you're going to be okay. Here's Tatis's quote, "It's baseball. It happens. Everyone who's won a Gold Glove or Platinum Glove has had one of those nights. I definitely know he's a great player." Simon was back out there the next day working his tail off again. He's the dude of the week, as well as all the players from the Padres and Marlins who supported him.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. It's one thing for your coach to say something, your manager to say something, your mom, your dad, your neighbor, but when your counterparts, your colleagues that are playing the same game that you are reach out and say, you know what, we've all been there, I think that has a little bit more weight. I never thought in a million years, Ken Rosenthal, that I would say this, but I don't think we're talking about the New York Yankees enough. And the New York Yankees are my dudes of the week, specifically Brian Cashman. I mean, he takes a lot of grief all of the time, as he should, being the general manager for a lengthy amount of time over one of the most historic franchises in all of sport. But he has put together a very nice team, and Aaron Boone has managed a very good season so far. The Yankees are seizing the AL East while the rest of the teams, not Tampa Bay, but while the rest of the teams in the division seem to be sinking a little bit. This is a team that has the largest division lead, and they're doing it without some key pieces. They're doing it without Garrett Cole. They're doing it without Luis Gil. They're doing it without Giancarlo Stanton. They're doing it without some of the key pieces of that roster, and they're doing a really good job. So you are my dudes of the week, the New York Yankees. Okay, time now for the John Fisher Dork of the Week. Okay, Ken, who do you have?
I could choose any number of teams here. I mentioned them in the previous segment, the Diamondbacks, the Rangers. I could go on and on and on, but the Red Sox this week take the cake. I mentioned their 5-game losing streak. I mentioned their players out of position. I mentioned their big money players like Story not producing. Red Sox, always drama, always too much drama. Dorks of the week.
Yeah, in a bad way. Drama. Trevor Story, by the way, owed $50 million over the course of the next 2 seasons. The Red Sox have a 2028 opt-out for Trevor Story. He's got to get it going. My dork of the week is the grounds crew member that got hurt, not because he got hurt, Ken, but because he showed us the bird. Obviously, was very upset. Looks like he dislocated his knee or something there at Comerica Park. Didn't like what was happening, that he was being filmed. And then one of the guys that was helping him said, "Hey, bro, I know you're in pain, but you got to put that middle finger down because now not only are you hurt, you might get fired." So that gentleman, his 15 minutes of fame is not a good one. He is my dork of the week. That's a bummer, Ken. You don't want to see a guy get hurt, but you got to kind of control. You got to control yourself.
I understand his frustration. Obviously, he's in pain. He's not feeling great, but the cameras are what the cameras are, and they're recording the plays that are going on the field. And I was actually shocked to see this. And it just kind of struck me as a reaction that was not proper. Let's put it that way. I won't go any further. It just wasn't a proper reaction.
No, it's funny too, because it's like not only was it not proper, but to me that kind of came out of nowhere. Like that's the last thing I was expecting for that guy to do. It's like, oh, I'm really hurt. And I love the guy that was surrounding him, like trying to help. He's like, bro, you gotta like simmer down here. I understand. But again, now we have like maybe there's a work comp claim, but you also might go from the work comp line to the unemployment line, because perhaps you're about to get fired in this whole situation. Kenny, did you ever think that we wouldn't be talking about the New York Yankees enough in my Dude of the Week?
No, and you're right. They've won 16 of 20. They deserve all the props that you gave them. And it's interesting with the Yankees how they've pivoted so well from losing Soto, from the Cole injury, all the things that have happened with them. And you're right, Cashman has done a great job. Their organization as a whole has done a great job. I wrote earlier and took a lot of grief for it about how they've done with homegrown talent. It's gone pretty well for them.
No doubt. All right, much more to come for some of us here on Fair Territory. For now, we're going to say goodbye to our new friends watching us on NESN, Sportsnet Pittsburgh, and NESN Nation. We say goodbye to you for now. All right, everybody that is still with us, we appreciate it very much. By the way, Ken, I have heard a rumor that the Fair Territory fits are available with the new look. FoulTerritoryShop.com. We have hoodies, t-shirts, hats, and more. By the way, Father's Day is around the corner, so maybe add in something for a player to be named later while you browse. Order now at FoulTerritoryShop.com and look like the fairest of them all. I love that. You see, that's a little play on words there, Ken Rosenthal. All right, where are you this weekend? What game do you have?
I am in lovely Los Angeles for a rematch of the 2024 World Series between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the New York Yankees. And obviously, this is going to get a lot of attention, this series, as it should, because when last we left these teams, when last we saw them on the same field together, it was Game 5 of the World Series, and we know it did not end well for the Yankees. It ended much better for the Dodgers. I believe in The Athletic, either today or tomorrow, we're going to have an oral history of Game 5. I know it might trigger Yankee fans. I advise them perhaps not to read it, but everyone else can read it. And actually, Yankee fans might want to read it too, just to inflict the pain one more time. And then it enhances the enjoyment of the current season when so many good things are happening with the Yankees. And their pitching in particular, without Cole, has been stunning.
It really has. And honestly, right now, if you take the microcosm of what happened this season so far, the Yankees are playing much better than the Los Angeles Dodgers are. Again, we talked about that division lead in the AL East. Not that the Dodgers aren't in first place, but they're certainly not running away with the division as the Yankees seem to be doing right now. We had a conversation, Ken, Clint Pasillas and myself, during spring training with Dave Roberts. He was kind enough to say, hey, I will walk you through the decisions I was making in the postseason, particularly the NLDS, of course, with the Padres. And then we kind of skipped over the CS to get to the World Series. And it was interesting to kind of take us through the manager's mind. Have you ever in your life wanted to kind of manage a game and see how it would go for you?
No. My job is difficult enough, and I would not pretend that I could do that job or general manager's job, a scout's job. I do my job. Now, that said, it is always really insightful to hear a manager do what he did for you and Clint and go through moves, because a lot of times when we're watching from the press box or we're sitting in the stands or I'm in the camera well doing a game on TV, there are things going on in decision-making, factors that go into certain moves that we don't know, we don't understand. And then afterward, we'll ask the manager and perhaps he'll explain, perhaps he'll hide the reason, but there's a lot that goes into each of these decisions. I'm not trying to excuse any manager for making a bad move, but they always almost always have an explanation. And for Roberts to take you through that in what might have been his finest hour, honestly, that was cool.
Yeah, I certainly think that it was his finest hour over the course of his tenure. Ken Rosenthal, we look forward to watching you and the Fox crew with Yankees and Dodgers this weekend at Dodger Stadium. And AJ Pierzynski, Eric Kratz, and myself are next on Foul Territory. I'm pinch hitting for Scott Braun. So Ken will have a brand new episode of Fair Territory on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.